So, welcome again, सबैलाई कस्तो रेडियो होस्ट गरे जस्तो फिल भएछ. Okay, so we are going to start our session आजको Leaptalk session, which is facilitated by women at Leapfrog. आजको topic रहेको छ like how to develop an eye for design, and our two marvelous, amazing presenters, Prelisa and Sunita. So, the stage is all yours.
Thank you. Now let us share our screen first. You guys can see our screen?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so it's 4:35 already. So let's start. Ready? Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking out your precious time and joining us for this Leap Talk today. I'm Prelisa Dahal, recently promoted designer at Leapfrog.
I'm Sunita, Rana. I'm also the designer.
And we just take around 30 to 45 minutes of your time to discuss the most important and fundamental things about design, which is super important to all the designers around the world. And we just have one expectation from all of you, is we want you to be very participative, and then only we can make this session really interactive and fun. Okay, so before I start, I'd like you to take a moment to think for a while. What does design mean to you? Or how did you come across the concept of design at first? You can write about it in the chat box, or if you're comfortable, you can also unmute yourself and talk about it. So what does design mean to you? Yes, guys, we're expecting your answer.
Yes.
It means solving problems sometimes more about aesthetics and feel. Visualization of an idea. Okay, that's good. Okay, do we have any more answers? Yes, for me, design. For me, it's more about a feeling, anything that radiates. Okay, organization and aesthetics, right? So we can see that each of our answer, and sometimes it's a job. Yeah, we can see that each of our answers of meanings for design is quite different. And some you may like, some you may not like. And it's from your experience on how you've seen design through your eyes, you're giving those definitions, right? So Sunita, would you also like to tell me about how you feel about design, what it means to you?
So for me, design is something that makes our life easier, and it's pretty simple and invisible most of the times. Design helps to solve complex problems of our everyday life, and that's what I like most about the design.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much, Sunita. So for me, design is a science. It is a system, and you can learn the system and be good at it. Now you might have a question that why I say that design, I'm saying that design is a science or it is a system, right? So I think you'll get answered by the end of the session. So before I got introduced to design, I have a friend, I should say. I have a friend who is detail oriented, organized, and I always felt that he was like that since birth. And I felt that he could see life from very different perspective. And he's that one kind of friend who used to get his food packed from the restaurants, and then he comes back home and then plates everything really prettily and then eats. So by now you might have known that he is a product designer by profession, and he was the one who introduced me to design first. And I used to design some pages. Like at first I tried it on my own, but it was really bad. And then he said that I should copy the designs of some of the good designers, and I used to copy the websites and I used to design them. And then I used to, when I felt that this cannot be any better now, I used to show that to him. But when I showed that to him, every time he used to point out smallest of the box that I could have never seen those box. Like I used to check that 3 or 4 times, 5 times, and I felt that it cannot be any better, and he should not say anything now. And then I used to say that to him, and then he used to point out smallest of the mistakes that I would have never seen. So how many of you have felt that designers catch the smallest of the design bugs that you don't see? It might be whenever you are developing or whenever you're testing, you might not have seen this box, but designer, he or she comes and then say that this is not right, this is mistake here, this is far from this much pixel. How many of you felt that? You can write yes or no or me or anything. Yes, 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 right. So many of us, we felt that. So don't worry, you'll be able to see what is lacking and where it is lacking over time once you get to know the principles. So the first step to getting that designer side that we say always is knowing the principle. Like, you should know the basic principle, and then only you'll have idea that, oh yes, this rule is not applied here, or this principle is not applied here, then we can say, right? So before we move on to principles, before that, I have one more question to ask you. So do you think there is a good and bad design? What do you think about it? Yes, 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 right? So let's see if there can be good designs or bad designs. Okay, Sunita, let's begin.
Okay. Oh crap. Please don't worry, there's nothing wrong. So here the crap means C for contrast, R for repetition, A for alignment, P for P for proximity. So these are the very basic four principles of design which are applied in every design work, not just design work. We can see these design principles in our everyday life too, which we will be discussing later on. Now I will show you the few examples and that might help you grab the gist of these principles. Okay, let's look at this design and say what's wrong, or is it good, is it bad? Okay, you can type your answers in the chat box. Can you point out anything that's wrong with this design, or is it okay? Can you move on to another example? So depends is gapping and spacing, bad typography, धेरै pack भयो. Okay. So अनि यसमा चाहिँ कस्तो छ, what about this one? धेरै pack भयो, still pack. Okay. So can you spot the differences in this design? कुन चाहिँ better छ त? Which one is better? Right one, yes. The second design is definitely better than the first one because of the contrast. You can clearly identify which one is the title, description, and everything instantly. Whereas in the first design, the design is a bit more hard to understand. So it is hard to focus since it looks pretty much similar. So the main purpose of contrast is to draw a reader's eye into the page. It guides the user for where to focus on the page. So let's look at one more example. So when you look at it, what do you see at first? So I think obviously you will read the bold and blue text first, right? And then you will read the one at the bottom, which is bold and black, and then you will move on to the text on the top. Am I being lost? Yeah, so this is what contrast does. It will guide our eyes to where to focus on. So by now, I hope you get the basic idea of contrast. Now let's move on to another example. So what do you think about this one? Can you point out anything that can be improved in this space? Hierarchy, numbering, heading and spacing maybe. 5 step भनेको छ, कति हो त्यो? Yes, exactly. So, यसमा चाहिँ what do you think about it? अहिलेको भन्दा better छ कस्तो छ? Better, yes, much better. So yes, so it's clear that the second one is easy for our eyes to read than the first because there is repetition of some element throughout the page, such as bold title, bullet list, and spacing. सबै कुरा चाहिँ यतापट्टि right one मा चाहिँ मिलेको छ, whereas left one मा चाहिँ it all looks similar, so it is hard for our eyes to read, right? So the main purpose of repetition is to unify the entire design and make the design look more interesting. And one of the other example of repetition that we are familiar is Google Docs, where we maintain the consistency throughout the document by using similar font, similar body font size, bold title, and so on, so that it helps to unify the document as a one. Our example is magazine. So magazine mapani, we can see that there is the placement of page number is either at the bottom or top of the page and it is consistent throughout all the pages, and the title design is also same for every articles in the magazine. So in this way, we can see that the pattern of repetition is being applied in many other things as well. So this was all about repetition. Now, Prelisa, can you please take it over to talk about other principles?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sunita. Now let's move on to another example. So you have to tell me, what do you notice in this design? So what do you notice in this design? Is it easy to read? Or what is it that we can improve in this design? Right. Okay, now let's see the same elements, but in a little different order. Now let's see. How's it now? Very nice. Okay. Obviously, it is easier to read, right? So when we look at both of these images, when you look at this design, we can clearly see that second one is better. And why second one is better is because whenever we see this first one, we can see that our eyes is starting to read from this point. And then when it has to go to the second row, it doesn't know, and it has to go far left, right? And then if we complete this one, then it has to go a little bit left again, and to the just to the middle, and then the middle, and then to read the sorry. So in this, you can see the regards and all, and this in the very right side, right? So it is very different. So when we look at this design, we can see that our eye is starting to read from this point, and it is continuing to read from this point. Now this is a very small paragraph that we have here, but imagine if this was a blog post, what would it be? Would you read all those text there? Obviously not, right? Because it is eye straining and it is very difficult to read. So alignment, this is alignment playing the role here. So alignment allows you to arrange element in a way that matches how people naturally scan the piece. It helps balance your design and is visually appealing. And it creates the visual connection between the elements. Now, let's see another example. I think you might have already seen it, but when I put the next image, you have to say, what do you see first? Okay, in all the elements. Okay, ready? Ready? Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, what do you see here? Bango leads or lines? Lines.
Which line?
Which line? Third, right? So while you look at this image, the element that grabs your eye is this one, because it is not aligned. All of those are straightly placed and with the equal distance, and this one is a bit, out of order, right? This is outlier. Yeah, people with OCD, they would obviously make it straight again. So these are some of the elements, like when some of the elements are not aligned, it catches the eye right away. So it is mostly used intentionally to grab attention, but I would say it is mostly used by the experienced designer when they know how the user would perceive it, when they know that how the users would feel it, then they'll also tweak their designs in such a way that they keep this kind of things intentionally to grab the attention. So those were the principles of alignment that we've seen. Alignment makes your design look clean and appealing. You can also say that some people, whenever they come to your house, they'll manage your, like they'll place everything straight. When they're leaving the office, also they'll make the table and chair really straight and aligned with each other. And then also the mat that we use at home, it should be really straight for some people, right? So these are the alignment principles. And whenever you are following this alignment principle, then you're making sure that it is looking clean and appealing to the eyes. So these were the principles of alignment. Now I'll show you another image. What do you see here? The black dots randomly placed in a container, right? Chaos. Exactly. Molecules of air, bubbles. Okay, now let's move on to the next image. What do you see here? It is the same dots. We can see the group of dots here, 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 and here, right? So now, when we compare both of these images together, we can see that these dots, they are randomly placed. We do not know the connection. We do not know anything about it, right? But when you see here, we can see the dots, they are really closely grouped here. It's a bit far here, but this is also one group. We can clearly say that this is one block that we have. This is another block that we have. This is another and another block, right? So these are the blocks, and this is called the principle of proximity. So proximity is the grouping and shaping of objects in a composition. In design, we use proximity for two purposes. One is to create connection. Second one is to dispel the connection or to break the connection. The first, we are creating the connection between these dots. As you can see, they are giving a meaning, they are giving visual, they are creating the relevance or hierarchy or organization or structure, we can say. But here, when we see it here, it is a little bit far from this, where we are breaking the connection of these dots to these dots, and we are clearly seeing that this is one block of elements, this is another block of element, right? So it is also used to dispel the connection. So by moving the visual elements closer together or further apart, we are applying these design principles. And now let's look at another example. When you look at this image, what do you see here? Everything randomly placed. Can you know the gist of what it's going to say? We're saying to you? Do you think it is a good user, it is giving the good user experience or the bad one? Blind design experiences. Distracting, right? It is all over the places. Now, when we look at this same elements, we haven't changed anything, just some structure we've changed. What do you see here? It is the same picture, as you can see, it's the same picture. It is the same, the idea that is giving it is the same. So what do you see here is proximity playing the very important role here as well. So this is organized, more structured than this, right? So proximity is playing the role here. Now, let's move on to another example. So this is the example you might have seen already, but I wanted to keep it here. Okay, so while looking at this image, we can see that there are these three individual elements which are placed, right? Triangle, Pac-Man, yes. But with the right proximity, when it is kept, we can see that there is a negative space here. And it is suggesting a new visual shape entirely different. If we are tweaking this placement a little bit, then also it is giving the entirely different meaning, right? So if we move the shapes, they no longer have meaning and can be entirely different. And however simple or complex the relationship or the lack of relationship can trigger the feelings, can convey the messages and engage audience as well. So these are the few examples of proximity. it is either used to build connection or to break the connection. So whenever you are building or breaking any kind of a connection, then that is the rule of proximity that you are using. So these were the few examples of proximity that we have. Now, I think you might have a better understanding of what proximity is, what this design principle means. I hope you will think about the images that I've shown whenever you listen to proximity next time. So these were all about the principles that we had craft, right? So now Sunita will take over the space to talk about the things that we see in our everyday life. Okay, over to you, Sunita.
Thank you, Prelisa. Yes, we will talk about the things we see in everyday life and how design principles help to make our life better. So if we look carefully, we have design all around us in everything we do, in everything we see and use. So let's look at few examples. How many of you have refrigerator at your home? And which one are you? One or two? You can answer in the chat box.
One, both non.
Khali Samir.
1.5. Both. Trust me, nobody does the right one. I'm the one, and my wife is too. Wow.
Yes, that's interesting to hear. So I'm also the first one. I think I can say but I'm slowly trying to be the second one. As you can see in the first one, all the food items are kept randomly and mixed up, and it looks so messy. It would take a lot of time if we need to find one thing. Whereas in the second one, all the food items are kept in an organized way, dairy at the top, and below that there's leftover milk, fruits, and so on, so that it is very easy for even our eyes to scan the food items, right? So let's look at another example. So this is the picture of Big Mart. I'm sure most of us might have been there for grocery shopping. I like the way they have organized the items and keep the labels at the top with its category types such as dal, chamal, frozen, chow chow, and so on. So it obviously makes shopping experience convenient and easier for the customers. And every related items are kept together, which is also the principle of proximity. Now let's look at another example. So we must be very familiar with this one, right? Can you answer in the chat box which one are you, first or second? Second, nobody has the right one again. 2, 2, 1, 1.
I used to be one, then Google should have.
Okay, all right. Don't worry, Penny, it's okay. I'm sure none of us like the messy desktop, right? We can change the messy desktop to the clean one by deleting the unnecessary files, making folders such as apps, document, photos, and keeping the related files in the respective folders. And we can also pin the apps we frequently use at the taskbar. So we have our own way of managing our desktop or other things. So in this way, using design principles, we can manage the little to big things in our everyday life. The examples that I have just shared are only a few and simple ones. If we apply the design principles in our everyday life, it really makes difference the way we see things, see ourselves, and interact with the surroundings. We even might have been applying these principles in our life, but without even knowing. So we can see and observe everything from design eye, but it definitely takes time. It does not happen overnight. We are also on this journey and we are still learning. We are not experts for sure. And Prelisa, do you want to add anything? Did I miss anything?
Right. nothing much, but like Sunita said, we are also in the phase of learning. As I said first, that I'm recently promoted, both of us are recently promoted designers. So it's just been a year for us that we've enjoyed the career in design. So there is a lot to learn, and having the designer eye is not the overnight process. Like Sunita said, it is not the overnight process. These are just 4 principles that we've said here. There are a lot of design principles there, and then you can explore it by yourself, but these were some of the basic principles that one should know to make their everyday life easier, to make it, whenever you are designing something, if you think about these 4 principles that you've shared today, your design is going to look so much better than what you're doing right now. And because now you know the principles of alignment, proximity, contrast, repetition, right? Now whenever you see one design, you can see what is lacking there. If it is alignment that is missing, if it is proximity that is missing, if there is no connection that is building, then you can clearly see that this design principle is not applied here, right? So I hope that this session was a bit fruitful for you as well. It was for us, obviously. When we prepared all these slides, we were also knowing and learning different new things. So yeah, we are, I think, at the end of our session now.
Yes, I agree with whatever Prelisa said. So in this session, we have only covered 4 of the basic design principles. Because of the time bound, there are many other principles of design which you can explore on your own, and you can look at things in the world and see the things from design perspective. So with that note, I think we are at the end of our session. Now, please let us know if you have any questions. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box, or you can ask by
yourself and ask. We have like a lot of designers in this call as well. So even if we do not know the answers, then our experts will give you the right answers.
Yeah. We have 30 more minutes.
Yeah, why pink color? Because whenever that post was shared, the color was pink and it was playful and then it was vibrant. That is the reason we also chose a pink color on our slides.
Any questions, guys?
So lastly, design, it is applied everywhere in your life. It is like applied everywhere. Whenever you see the nature as well, whenever you see the tree, you can see the contrast there, right? So the color theory is used there. So whenever you see the nature or anything that is made by men or anything at all, you can see design everywhere. But you just have to think from the design perspective on why it is kept like this or like this, so that is it. We don't have much to say now.
So for now, this was a great session, eh? Sabैले बबालै knowledge चाहिँ पायो होला for non-designers. And thank you again, Prelisa. Thank you again, Sunita. And we are like ending the session now. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Hope
you.
you have a great evening ahead.
Everyone
Bye-bye.
for joining.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for participating.